Right, so we're dealing with the Moshel of the Gemara in Masechet Psochim, where it brings the story Barichas of how Yankov Avinu said Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Le'olam Va'ed in answer to the Shvatim after he'd wanted to be Megalah the Kates, and Rosh Shechina Mistalefes Mimenu, and then he was Hizkel L'Daber Dvarim Acherim. And so then he said Shema Yesh Psul B'Bonai. And so they said, no, Abba K'moshe Ein B'Yodcha Ela Echad Kein Ein B'Libeinu Ela Echad. And Yankov Avinu said Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Le'olam Va'ed. And then on that the Gemara brings the famous Moshel. It brings Moshel. Yeah, the Bas Melech Shehericha Tzikei Kedera. She smelled at the burnt parts of the bottom of the pot. The things that are left right at the bottom of the pot, and they've been burnt. So nonetheless, they give off a very powerful sort of reach, and so it wasn't matim for the Bas Melech to say that she's mamish going out. She got close on her, she has to have that tzikei kedera. Because but on the other hand, if they don't bring it to her, then closer daita legamre. So therefore, they came up with an answer. They'd bring her b'chashoi. Still alive, they brought her the tzikei kedera. And therefore the Gemara said that's why it is that we say Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus b'chashoi, because it's like that Indian of the whole Indian of tzikei kedera. What the Han said is we can't really say it openly because Moshe Le'omer, Yankov Omer. What do we do? Name her b'chashoi. And on that the Gemara brings this whole Indian the Bas Melech Shehericha Tzikei Kedera. Kedei lahasbir der Indian al derech HaChassidus. So the Rebbe brought us down the Indian of what he called the Indian of Tainuk. How it is. We're holding on to Lamed Zayin. The Indian of Tainuk in a way which he called it Tainuk be'etzem or etzem ha'tainuk, or oineg atzmi to be more correct, oineg atzmi. And then we didn't quite get onto it, but we're going to get onto our oineg she'enu atzmi. But it comes mitzad other inyan. How do you do it, Tzvi? So we made quite a lengthy sort of introductory remarks, hoping that you would come. We wanted to sort of not get into the shiur too much before you came. Anyway, is tainug or etzem tainug. Now we have to think carefully what is the view in this lashon etzem or einig atzmi. So I think we'll start, even though we already learned a few lines of this, but since it's quite a while since we actually learned, a little bit of Chazorah won't affect us. It's about a third of the way down the page. Tehine yesh beis minei oineg, which may be even less than a third, but it's around about a third of the way down. Everybody got it? Yesh beis minei oineg. I'd say it's about 10 lines down, 12 lines down. Ho aleph oineg ho atzmi, sheyesh beteva be'etzem hadovo, שהוא טוב עורב לא נפש, ונקרא עינג עצמי, היינו שבו בסדר הדרוגה מהעינג שבנפש. And then the Rebbe gives a dogma, וכמוי החי שבאיבורים. Now when he says חי שבאיבורים, he means החי שנמשך מהנפש into the איבורים, שזהו שנמשך מהוס החייס. הגם שזהו רק האור לבד, מכל מוקים הוא מהוס האורס חייס הנפש, שבו בסדר והדרוגה, מה שאינכם בסיירס. If we take other forms of Gilead, the chayes, so what does he want with that brackets? When we use the expression oineg atzmi, then we're going to define carefully with a diuk What do we mean by the word atzmi? Because usually we're accustomed to the word atzmi referring to a madrege gavoya v'shroshius in the Indian ad kedei that's the etzem of the zach. So when you say oinik atzmi, you might think that that's really shoyrosh amitius pshitas oinik pshitas atzmas anevit. So the Rebbe says that the use of the word atzmi here is that it's amitius, it's a gilui amiti from tainuk, but that doesn't mean to say that it doesn't come beseder v'hadroga mesuyemes. In other words, it's a masuda dika inyan, but it's still called atzmi. V'zeh mishum shnei tam. יש בזה כאילו שני הגדורס או טעמים. Aleph, that the thing itself, במה שמדובר, is הדובר המויעונה או דבר שייט תיינו, הדובר המואר תיינו מצד עניוני הוא. In other words, the dover is a Indian mi'unag, or dover a shayach l'tainu be'etem. Well, that's what the basically we were looking for. A dover, it was over there in the corner. A dover mi'unag be'etem. In other words, that the object of the tainu, the actual dover that is misanik boy, is a dover a shayach lo'inig. In other words, a dover toiv v'oreiv. עם כל העניונים המאירים תיינוג אצל האדם יש בדבר הזה. In other words, it's not that dover involves certain inyonim which are not al derech rogil tainug, but nonetheless it calls out a certain indirect and albeit maybe powerful oinig in the nefesh. No, that's a dover inyone is al derech ha'etzem shel hadover hu shehu ma'ir ha'oinig. It's ma'ir ha'oinig in even what you might call normally, but even rogil etzel the adam, and that means that it comes only maybe from not from etzem pshitas atzmius ha'oinig. It's maybe only a ha'ora of ha'oinig, but it comes in a even masuda. In other words, it comes both mitzad the dover itself and the way it's mo'era by the Odom, both of them are what you would call tainug, and therefore I would say the word atzmi here means definition, by definition. By definition, that's a dover shel oinig, and the type of oinig which is coming is a oinig hamuvan v'ha tzafui. You can imagine that this will cause a gilui of oinig, and under those circumstances we call it atzmi. And therefore he brings a dogma from the Chayes HaNefesh. And he said that Chayes, which is actually nimshach into the Eivorim, is only a ha'ora from the Nefesh, it's not etzem a Nefesh klal. And yet nonetheless we call it muhus ha'chayes, meaning that particular level which the Nefesh has made begolui to bring Chayes to the body, or that gives itself directly into the Eivorim belishum, Shinoim or Belishum inyonim of what you might call ismatus or miut or ke'itzah. Now that etzem chayes is mislavish in the Eivorim. Le'afuki mai, le'afuki where the etzem chayes itself doesn't actually enter the Eivorim. No, that guf is only through hefsek or through ezedover, which is not only mamayit, but it's almost mafsik the whole inyan. And that's the inyan from Sidus. Because the inyan from Sidus, they're not even a ha'ora, they're like a dover metzumtzum ad miyoid that comes through a dover ha'mafsik, but that's the etzem agil gelis, what's going on there. The etzem agil gelis is mafsik between the chayes hamoyach and the etzem chayes ha'otz nimshach into those silence. That's, we're going to be very careful here, the taichet, the Rebbe said that's what he means here by the pshat uinig be'etzem. In other words, it's al derech that Indian of the Chayes in the Eivorim, that it's a expectable and proper defined gilui of the koach ha'oinig leloko inyonim soisrim or mishanim, or not lefi what we would understand as oinig. But albeit it could be that it's not mamish etzem oinig a poshet shebenefesh, it's already come Be'ezeshu Giloi Mea Nefesh. That's the types. Ukemoi said, for example, so we're going to see that as the dugmois build themselves, that the dugmois function also on those two inyonim. First of all, the dugmois are going to be from dvorim unogim, that yesh be'moinig mitzad etzem inyonim v'mahusam, and then we're going to see that they're also mo'ero oinig in the autumn, b'derech atzafui, as we call it, or, to use my expression by way of definition, one can expect that they would cause a gilui of the oinig, and since that's what oinig is, that's the way we would expect oinig to reveal itself, therefore it's called mahusa oinig, even though it could be that lekabi higher in the etzem nefesh, but derech ha'ora. Ukemoy ha'oinig betam orev betam lenefesh b'cheik hatoyim, or b'chayich hatoyim b'masikres ba'arevus betam hamaycho shemavashlim b'kadeira. So the Rebbe said, take for example, it's interesting, the Rebbe describes it very richly. The oinig that there is in sweet taste, which is good to the nefesh and to the palate. Hatuyim, that's the source of the palate. The taste is the palate. With sweetness and aravas. What aravas are not stam sweetness, but like a very definite sweetness than just tam masikes, but tam hamaycho in the time of a tavshil, what is cooked in a kedera, and v'tayim members there komani tam b'chayis l'nefesh, and therefore people eat from it, from that kedera which has been prepared, with a tremendous havana in bishul, and with all the different necessities and what you might call ingredients that have been placed into the kedera. Therefore, it's a infant tam, and the Rebbe, it's not just stam tam, but it's chayis. It's mamish chayis l'nefesh. That's what we see, that the emes in infantino leptuf mentioned. When you give them a really properly prepared and yishmach maichut, then it causes in people a certain, even if it may be a little bit somewhat chayat to the Elam HaGashmi, it causes them a certain isayras of chayas, and a little bit more al derech adugma, a little bit more al derech haruchnias. We find that the pasuk tells us shmua teva tidashin etem, that good news or something that comes but a good surprise and a pleasant and an arousing Indian basura teva miuchedes elo adam, or that causes him to fatten at that particular moment miroiva chayis, which is nimshach alidei oinig. And like we see by the famous story, we should know such inyanim rachmanin nitzlan is given by the Kaisar b'shasi was tzor al Yerushalayim, and they came to tell him when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai given with him. They came to tell him that he'd been elected, or he'd been somehow or another he'd become the Kaisar. And so he tried to put on his sandal to go out and greet people, and he couldn't get his foot into the sandal. And so therefore Rabbi Yochanan said to him, "Mitzad v'ashmua teva tedashin etzem." There your foot is portion begashim is fat, you can't get into the sandal. And so therefore he said to him, "Im chachime Yehudoi kulei hai." If the Yidden are so wise, then why didn't you come earlier? It's a painful and tremendously mind-boggling piece of story over there in the Gemara. We see from that Shmua Teva Mamish brings to Chayas, Kipshutei, and that Chayas becomes a Chayas Gashmi. In the simple sense. Therefore said the Rebbe, that's a inyan from tam v'chayus l'nefesh. And mamere, that affects afila the nefesh as malubish kipshuta in the group. Ubekoichos nafshim, but if we take it a bit higher now, purely in the gila at the etzem koiches of the nefesh, like the seichel amidas, who kemoya oina b'muskolis amukais v'nailis. That's in the Seichel, Chabad. The Mishu Chacham Godel, Harihu Misanig Ma'uid Mimos, Muskolit. In other words, that That's a inyan which by him is a dova oinig be'etzem. It's a sweet and inyan mu'unag. If it's mu'oira by him, also the inyan from oinig, how we would expect a inyan for giloi oinig shebenevet. But even mole and mitzad the dachas of the seichel, then it's a tainug naila v'dak, more than the one we mentioned mitzad the inyan from Michael. Shehu chacham gadol hari umisanek moed memuskalet. Now a dogma from the inyan from Midas, v'chein ho'ish hatoi ve'achesed, shemisanek b'pa'ulas hatoi ve'achesed shaloi. The Rebbe said that somebody who's aish hatoi ve'achesed b'emes, then he has an unbelievable tainug in just carrying out the inyan ha'chesed. In other words, that becomes his whole chayus. Once again, it's a form of chayus, and just like we see that the Bala Muskolis also, he lives and they're left to chopit from the inyan for Muskolit. As well known, they tell the famous story also, it's a dover shel Tsar, of Al Hoponim, they tell the story as a Bishas, the Rogachover, the Kvedem Petirosa, he had terrible pain from whatever he was. And it was hard for him to pay any attention to it, but if somebody sat and said a piece of Gemara, or said a Rashi or something left from the Shas, he would immediately pop out of the coma of the pain that he was in, and he would start being ma'eh all sorts of horns in the Gemara and in Rashi. So we see that the tainug in the Muskolis is a gilui amiti, is mahus in a tainug that has the ability to Shmuel Tidashin Etzem in a much more dachis and tremendously oinedika fashion, but that's also a form of chayes. So the same with a person that he's a aish atui b'emes, and he's a mentor, he's a bal chesed, then he has tremendous chayes just from doing dvorim toivim until the point that he can't really have any pleasure in life, as you might call it. He can't go on with his normal chayes unless he's able to be mashpia teiva chesed. I saw such a person b'moyayin kamashonim teivas in Beneva. It's Oliver Shon, Rav Moshe Schuster, those who knew him. Those who go and think Ansel Eben, see it for Nashpoas chesed to Mekablim Mechazdei. He pushed. He just couldn't live. He couldn't give chesed. He couldn't run around doing tevas for people. He just had no interest whatsoever in anything to do with that was his whole life. He went on ganze time. And if you may be familiar with the famous arichas in the Hemshech Tofreish Peidalet from the Rebbe Rayatz in the Hemshech, I think it's even the Hemshech from the Hemshech of Rosh Hashanah. There's a famous piece over there, old Maimah. It was fascinating. I once heard that Maimah Chazal by an Alter Yid. He was a shvoger of Holy Khan's. He was actually, he was mother of Holy Khan's sister. His name was Rabbi Avram David. Forgotten his surname. He was like one of these tzaddikim historian from Lubavitch. He lived way out in Ramat Gan somewhere. He was a loner. He was all sort of on his own, but he had this unbelievable push. Unbelievable. He was from the Tolchet Shmir. He was from the original Talmudim of Tolchet Shmir. And occasionally, very, very occasionally, he would come here to Kwachabad to visit his brother-in-law to spend Shabbos with Foley all of a sudden. And whenever he did, they would jump on him here in the shul. He must say a maimer. In those days, people had patience at Shul's time to sit and listen to a maimer. Not, unfortunately, like it is a lot of times today, where they don't have any patience. They have minyonim running and panicking and davening Mario and the whole thing. Is in those days, everybody used to sit with mamish tainu and listen to a maimer. Chassidus bein mincha to Mario. And this man, he didn't just say 5 minutes, and not 25 minutes. He said 45 minutes, 55 minutes of Maimon without any problem. So I was once here, but he chazed one of the Maimonim from the Hemshech about the Ish HaToi B'etzem. And he was working on it, this amazing chush. And a little man he was, he wouldn't hardly notice him. And all of a sudden we'd just start out so to kisen to hituka dibu to tuf tam da Avram David, we had to go listen. I can't remember his surname. And he was a boki in Tanya Mamshati Oisi. He was an amazing person. And he could sing a nigun. He was Mamshat theatrical, he could sing a nigun. They would get him to sing. He had to sing the nigun before the Maimah because he got the whole sort of how do you call it? He was the whole center of attraction for that. If he showed up in after mincha in the shul, Lifnei Seder on Shabbos, he became the whole theatrical. He became the whole center of attention. He had to say the nigun, he had to say the Maimah. he was like the whole what you might call bottle wash lahavdil, to use such an expression. And I happened to be here one Shabbos. I was here just after my chasana. I was here in Kwachava, and he was here for Shabbos. And they pinned him down. They said, no way. And you would think, how's he going to say that? He hasn't prepared. I didn't see him walking around preparing him. He just came innocently into the shul to daven mincha, And they said, no. And they sat him down. And he had to sing the nigun. He sang this beautiful nigun. And all of a sudden he just set himself down. He just sort of went like this a few times. And started going. 45 minutes. And it was all about the Isha Tui Be'etum and the Tainu Be'etum HaShef and HaShvat and do some unbelievable. And it's in Pei Dalet. It's from the Friedrich Rebbe. So that's what he means here, the Rebbe. It's good that you hear these things. You have to know that there are such people. Yeah, it's so much because he was just remarkable. He had this most amazing way of giving out the words. It was just so gelebt. You just heard this Isha Tui Be'et. He just came out and lived in front of you. B'shas you heard the Maimah, the Tainug in Chesed. It was just amazing the way he had this unbelievable push. Little fella. He wore one of these little hats, he didn't becloud, he looked very modest, all these big Mavinim and Silas in those days, they're all sitting and stroking their beards, Rav Foley was sitting there sort of nodding and saying, I told you so, you think I don't know my brother-in-law? Anyway, he was a very beautiful person, Foley. Did you guys know him? Did you know Foley Khan? Did you know him? You were Kohen, you have to know him. Kaya Messiah Kahane. I know, says the Rebbe, that Indian is Ish Atay V'Chesed, Shemis'anig B'Pulas Aches Atay V'Chesed Shaloi. He has this unbelievable tainu of over there. In some ways, it puts the tainu of the Chacham Gadol and the Muskolis into shade. If you look over there with the Rebbe is Mataya, the Etzem Tainu in Ashpurs Atoiv, that these people which are called Ish Atay Be'etzem, what they have, it's just mind-boggling. It's good to read it over there. In Petalit, as the Rebbe read the Saru.
People in Kuntres Umayim, he brings that
yes, in Kuntres Umayim he's also got about it. Yeah, you're right. In Kuntres Umayim but he sort of plays it down a bit over there. Yeah, he says it's a sort of a bit of a Bahamitic oinig. But there he talks about which is Purim. The reason that he plays it down in Kuntres Umayim is a little bit because it's just purely TV. Here it could be the impression that he's worked on it a lot. In other words, that Isha Tui Be'etem mitzad, what he's brought out a Gili Atzmi for himself in the end of the Chesed. You understand? And therefore it's Mamshika in an audiosum mitzvah. I think what the Rebbe means over there in Kuntres Umayim, there's some people they feel good if they help other people. Here it's somebody that it's his whole life. He just can't be without it. They state that. Oh, man. That was the sort of Moshe Schuster. He just couldn't exist. He just said, wie kann man leben, a fell shore, and I tell you, it's not for a zweiten Jeden. He said, like this, no life, there's no point in living. I said. So, that's what he's talking about. It's a little under together. Anyway, whatever. So he says, yeah, Teva Chesed, oh, Einig Atzmi, Shezeo Einig Atzmi. Now when we say Einig Atzmi, V'hainu, and so he teaches us, Shadova be'etzem hu dova toiv, v'dova Einig ir be'etzem, v'al kein misanig boi. In other words, that's a dova Indian toiv be'etzem, to be mashpir to another person, and to give toiv chesed, that's a dova toiv. It's also got itself the Indian for an oinig be'etzem, to somebody who understands chesed upon him. It has itself the Indian for an oinig be'etzem, and therefore that's mo'er back into the mensch, the Indian of Giluah oinig, without any other factors, what you might call oinig by definition. That's why I teach it. Ubegashmias, so the Rebbe said in Gashmias, that's like the Indian from Tainig in Michael Orav Be'eter. So once again, I don't think the Kavanah is to compare the two. It's not that the Rebbe is trying to say he just spoke about a Chacham Gadol b'mus college, and he's going to say that's. I think the point being that the whole section is trying to show me that there are things which are the oinig be'etzem mitzad etzem definition shelahem, and therefore they're mo'orer because they are by definition, and therefore the type of oinig is a oinig masuda by definition. And so therefore the Rebbe said each one in its own oifen, and therefore you can, as it were, compare them, even though kamuvan, each of those oinigim or tainuks is in its own right a tainuk muvdal me'asheni, either bedachis or Baruch Nisumayla Sayini. You can understand it. In other words, it's a very delicate little piece of it's a thing we've got to follow the pshat very carefully, even though it looks to be rather straightforward. And it's like all inyonim in Iron Base. It's like the Friedrich Rebbe said, Iron Base is on under a knip. Everything is another sort of, it's a mabat miyuchad to hold on. You have to watch your step. Vabais, says the Rebbe, was it a traitor? He said, Hu ha'oinig shermurcha bihipucha itavke. He said, the traitor type of oinig is where the oinig becomes combined and allows itself to be combined with murkav. Murkav means like made together with, from something which is its very opposite. Now here's the chiddush. In other words, it could be that the thing causing the oineg is not really Indian, which should be or is necessarily maybe they even shouldn't be. Maybe we can even tie to that sometime. It's not necessarily a dova sheyesh bo oineg or hu dova shel oineg or ma'ir oineg. But it can be in certain situations that it might even be heipach ha'oineg. But it will be ma'ir ha'oineg in the nefesh, and then that nefesh, that's not going to be called oineg atzmi, even though the oineg that it'll be ma'ir is a very deep oineg. Mitzad the oimek of the oineg, it's a very deep, but it's not called atzmi because it's not the normal definitional, like I touched before. Atzmi being here more like by definition and by concept, the Indian kamoishahu. Therefore, he said you can find that something which is in itself and really mitzad the odom adova heipach ha'oineg, and yet nonetheless it comes out in the form of a oineg. Okemai ataynu binitzuach ala managi. So he said you can have a victory or a crushing of your menagid. Shemenagid lo b'foyal, that he mamish opposes you and what you represent. B'foyal mam. The kasher misnagid alo umenatzchon. When he said this person is, I'm sorry, the kasher misgaber alo umenatzchon, when he will gain victory over this person, or he'll gain the upper hand over him, and he will mamish, as we say, as we use the expression, he'll be mavatil his whole misnagdas until it'll become ois misnagdas. Yesh b'zeh oina gadol ba b'nefesh. Aber ein ze oinig atzmi. Now we've got to be very careful. This takes us back to our original pshat. He said this is not a oinig atzmi. It's not by definition oinig. V'hainu lo ishadova tui b'etzem. Not that it's a inyan mu'unag in its very self. Sharei hoya yoisa toiv shaloi hoya menagdim. Obviously, you have to have menagdim. You will stop menagdim today. You should have time. What's for inyan it does? How be yoisa toiv that there wouldn't be any menagdim? Even just the fact that there's also an appear of menagdim doesn't. Oh, what a wonderful thing! I got a menagdim. Oh, now I can have time in my life. I got a menagdim. So the Rebbe said to him, you're crazy. I mean, how be you menagid? In other words, that a menagid is heipuk by definition of that it causes definitional tainug. It doesn't cause you any definitional tainug at all. Rak. It's only kishiyesh menagid. Never. As it does, I'm in matzah that there is a menagid in a kasher menatzche yesh bezo in a God. But how do you call it? It's a form of, I don't know how you would call it. It's like an embittered type of oinig. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the Rebbe means. It's not oinig by definition. It's not oinig achmi. So nicht as if it chayes from the nefesh, what the nefesh gives it, mamish, and that's its present and its gift, to the Eivarim. That's a psah. Oinig with, you yourself. Unless we're talking about an Avsori or something, the Mamish has tiny that he was a vattel somebody else, then it's a oinig, it's a very how do you call it, difficult, non-definitional oinig. B'kein said the Rebbe, oinig ba'soros lomes b'stirois akushiyais ba'eza muskal sheis b'zeh oinig godel ba'eza oinig atzmi peli. The Rebbe said, that's not oinig atzmi. He said, sagen, das oinig atzmi is a mensch versteht nicht. That he's got to fight a war within himself to understand that's oinig atzmi. Oinig atzmi is a mensch, he's a baal muskolis, and he has the muskolis. It doesn't say oinig atzmi, by definition. Though he doesn't have it, he doesn't understand it. A konish verstehen for what's in the society, and he gradually removes those inyonim which are helim. Kemuvo in Tanya in the Geras HaKodesh chapter 26, Kabinin Shem Havaya, but the Alter Rebbe Havaya, that every kashi is really mitzad misito the sitra acher. It's really mitzad the inif and a helim amiti. Amamela yoyisa toy shaloi yekushia. Like we say. Like he said, yoyisa toy shaloi menagid. It's how we yoyisa toy shaloi yekushia. Leachi was this already do, and from Kushiyas, yesh behem mailas, gedoilas vatzumes, the taki alideze, you come to in biru, oimek beteka, askola v'chule v'chule. Yeah, the oinig is also like that, but just like he said, when I get to the oinig, I'm sorry, but when I get to the menagid, toiv yesh shaloyeh. And therefore the whole inif, that's what he said, the kush is mitzad sitra there. Yeah, the Liyuma said. Let's break the thought in Tanya.
We had it earlier too, man.
Yeah, we had the top Yisudim from Kushi as you come to Imak. Of what the Rebbe means to say is that how be Yesatei Shaloye Kushi. And so mitzad amiti is Ainian. The Kushi comes from a dover which is not what you're really looking for. It's a dover mo'era b'cho nitzuach. Ein nachanam. Ubezei yesh mailas gedoyles. The immediate concept of what is a dover mu'unag, what is it? It's not that. It's a dover hamalim b'shas ma'aser, and you have to overcome it. You follow? That's not tainu by definition. You follow? It's a how do you call it? Another musig in tainu. V'chein ha'oina b'saj ha'chav d'stev kushis ba'isa musko she'ez b'zoyin ha'godel v'ein zayin ha'gatzim. So politic stikro. Vagam shoinig b'zeh hu pnimi v'atzmi yoyse b'never. Bewahre the Tainug in that, and in the Netzucha Managi, there's also a way. I mean, the whole Bosi Lagani towards the end, the whole Indian, it tells us it's unbelievable in for nature, the Midas and the Koyach and nature, and just how unbelievable, how the Melech will give anything. I mean, it's a tremendous drive in the Nefesh HaAdam. But the Rebbe said it's not oinig atzmi, it's not oinig by definition. This is a oinig which comes through inyonim which are zorim be'etem inyonim to tainug. It's only that they are sof kol sof b'derech, oivim which is kilo eino moving, and even shel stirel etem adora, they're ma'ir oinig pnimi. And that's the wonderful expression. That's not no there was again. Take that as ours. I mean, it's just moving. Yeah. What the Rebbe is saying here? Who said Menachem is a? Who said Menachem is a mile? Menachem is a mile. Kushya is a mile. You see, we have to understand the question. And Mamira said to the Rebbe, it's not. But nonetheless, Aditei Hasoras Dovazeh Yesh Lecha Ezeshu. Uinig and Einochanami, that can be a very pnimi oimik in the nefesh. Mikol mokim ein ze uinig atzmi lefi ze ein ze me'adov atei be'etzem ki mi'puche heipach atei. And when Knut said, if you've got a managid, you have to know that that's not a dov atei. That's heipach harot. He's able to, if he's managed to the mitzvah inyan, then you have to be mitzvah. You have to overcome. And there'll be a certain, what can we do? There'll be a oine. Aber lo zeh, das nicht etzem oine. Pilim. So then he says, begashmi yes. Who can we oine b'meshan nisra b'ay? Now you tell the tzikei kedaira. Is Ruba Masha Nisra Poish, Venisho Bekedera Mipselos Hamichael Hamavusho, Achashiotim Manakol Atam Vatoi. Venidbat Bekoisla Akadera, Ubushuleho. Shuleho means the bottom of it, the bottom of the pot. Shazeo Anika Tzike Kadera. So the Rebbe said, Kum Toisa Tzike Kadera Be'etzem Minyone is not the Seder HaMavukish Lem. It's not the Seder HaMavukish. You're not supposed to burn the pot to a Zamitzot Matzah. There's been nisraf, that happened, that it got burned, and then this happened, and that happened, something, and then at the bottom there's this strange almost a sailors at the bottom, which is affected. It's like they call it shiroi ha-shefa, which are left at the bottom of the pot, and they've been affected by this too much heat and too much other conditions. But nonetheless, they have this amazing sort of what you might call. I mean, I suppose one could call it a shmek. It's like it's not purely a beautiful odor, some sort of powerful thing that can grasp a person. So that's what the Rebbe said there, what's called Tzikei Kadera. V'omnom yesh bo b'zeh tam ki huya. It's got a negative tam. Ki huya means like sharp. We say in the Russia we say ato hake eshino. Sort of make his teeth grind and not punch him in the teeth, but make his teeth all go bitter. Kihuya. Therefore, a very bitter apple is called kihuya. And therefore, he says, the basic was a time kihuya v'chalifut. That's something very sharp. Shemeshiv hanefesh u'mechazech halev mitzad chalifusay. It can even strengthen the heart of a mensch because of its chalifus. And it gives off a tremendously strong smell. He said, you won't be attracted by that rayach. You'll even be put off of it if you're if you're a normal ish mu'unag, you won't go for it. If you're in a normal state of rational diet, and you've been looking after yourself and you're all fine, and you smell that smell, you won't be attracted by it. And so shame it all got burnt, what can we do? But he said, if you're a chola slave, you've reached the point where your mum is to gaze toys, you've forgotten what it means a good, really, you're in a bad mood or something. You're a chola slave. And he said, you're a nefesh reikonius. You've lost all your normal ability at that moment to accept normal returns of your nefesh. He said, then you will be attracted by that. Then you'll go for that. He said, he said, that shmeka, the tzikei kedeira, or that will bring you back your nefesh. But who wants to be like that? Are you supposed to be like that? You're supposed to be a nefesh reikoni. You're supposed to be a chola slave. You're not supposed to be. But if already as a matter, then there's a mitzvot oinig which will clap back. It's kill. You're in a matter from a hipach, and that's also a hipach. Somehow or another, the two find a way to meet together. And Mamila, he says, what does it mean? והנה לפי יומים כאשר נחלש כוח הנפש ולא יתקבל עונג מהמאכלים הטובים, he can't do it anymore. He's dropped into a form of youth from the normal way. And the Bas Melech, she must have been, who knows, she must have been playing around or doing things a little b'diuk kamoya Bas Melech. And Mamela, she'd sort of lost the whole, that's in the mashal, the whole sort of normal seder of all the ma'acholim ha'toivim, ha'oilim, al-shulchan malachim, in the mashal. I mean, she would certainly know what ma'acholim toivim were about. And that's why the Gemara said, it's a terrible busha for her to ask for this whole thing, And they have to bring her b'chashoi. And even then it's a busha. He said that in לפי יומים כאשר עדיין שעות מלאכים יוכל יהיה שתישא הנפש בהריחו ריח חוזק וכושר. It's not a העצם אוין דיקזת. It's not a thing which BMS has its own. I'm Mr. Line?
I think you skipped.
Huh?
I think you
I'm Mr. Line? Oh yes, I did. Yeah, וזהו פירוש המושל לבס מלך, שרגילה בטעמים הרעיבים, בדחס העונג, והטעם בעצם כל הדברים הטובים. אדרבה, her regilus is not like that. That's not a dover harotzui for her. It's not a matzah of rogil b'klal. It's a matzah which is menagid letivusa haragila v'toivosa ha'amitiya, that she should be in a matzah. And that's what it says, that Yesh B'zeh Mishum, she can't openly ask for such a thing. Because she's rogil, she's lost imkain, the normal kesher with definitional time. So he says, Hinei lefi yomin kasher nechlash koach hanefesh, v'lo yitikabo enim mima'acholim ha'teivim ha'olam ha'shulchan malachim. What she's rogil b'zeh, yuchol yeh shetisava hanefesh ba'aricha reach chozov v'kosher tetzichay kedeira davka. Shazor Meishav Nefesh. The Davke, that will bring back the Nefesh. Dugma Mizel Amayla Prin Bas Melech Iloah. Bas Melech Iloah is what? Meaning from Bas as well, no? Bas Melech. It's like one of it simply Bas Tier, the famous Maimon from the Rebbe, Kof Chesivim, what the Gantzarich is. Amamer Bas Edini from Malchus, that's Silas. What she gives forth of the shefa, but oishi is tafke into the olam is biya bitzurufi oishi is behei moitzoes, and it comes to a whole seder of gilui a hevel from the meaning of malchus to break the oisis up into the whole seder gilui. He said, "Oh, prinas is galus." Yeah, malchus is the union from his galus of rotzen, v'chokma, umidas, all the good zachen, everything which is there, mitzad atzilas, comes down and mizgala in malchus. Shemeirim u mizgala in beginners malchus. Yeah, malchus is the makabel from all the dvarim toivim which are mizgala on meir. Yeah, mitzad the maila of Ulam Atzilas, and they're all mizgal into Malchus. The Kamaima Beisa dispari and Bei Kol Noherini. No, it's one of the Zohar touches the word pare. The pare indicates the basis that isparian means to be mizgala, to reveal itself. The Kol Airis Meirim or Mizgalim between some Malchus. all these inyonim, he says, Vahin oil v'giloim sheish b'hem oinig b'etzem, that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, those are things that come in, well, that's oinig b'etzem, that's all the expected definitional things that go on in Olam HaAtzilus and B'klal, in Gilei Elokus, yeah, mimenu is bara. We're going to see that there's another mass. After we're going to describe in great detail all the inyonim from Olam HaTikun and all the inyonim how they are. We're going to go back to Tfad and we're going to mass them. Mit Toihu. And Toihu is a god. Who said Toihu was in that? Toihu is not what they. Dein lo yahanil. That's not what he wants. And Avu became Davke from that whole in. There comes about a new, tremendously embittered almost form of Tainug in being Mavara, this whole, how would you call it, Balagan, that came about to the Indian from Toihu. Aber mein teinige Kinder, the Rebbe, we spoke before you came in, we had a whole big long drasha. As the Rebbe said, the Birurim of all sorts of finishes. The Birurim from Toihu for sure been finished. This whole embittered type of eating and all thing, the Rebbe said, had enough of it. That's what the Rebbe said. I'm only quoting you what Koish dus had in Lein Morein Rabbeinu Mashu Amar. He said, there's another tiny, laid on time like an Olam HaAtzilus, but that's, you know, but we're going for the big tiny, that everything's going to come lamata and be miskala, dirala is but a mamish, but tatwini, he would do us into a shalai be'era. That one's already finished, and it was enough because it was a difficult job and didn't matter to generations, but then they finished it. You know? And the other one, yeah, I mean, but man, nechshav, like every Diomiti says, now it's going to be lamata mamas. Yeah, was, yeah, Adma, Masai. Remember the chiyuv is Yechia Melech